Hey, folks, this podcast is brought to you by Parlay Play Fantasy Sports. Use my referral code RotoBrady. Get that sweet, sweet deposit bonus. They got paid contests coming to states and probably territories near you. They're giving out boosts. They're giving out bonuses. They're slashing lines all day long. Hop in those player prop DFS contests. It's a real fun platform over there. And what is up, everybody? This is another interlude episode of the Tap That MMA podcast. UFC Houston was just last night. I've got more interlude episodes that are coming out in the meantime and more on the calendar. Look out for those. Follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady for picks on all things combat sports in the week of action we have coming up. Follow me on Instagram at RotoBrady MMA. Follow the podcast at Tap That MMA Podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and now available on Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. And with me today, I don't have a usual sound clip that I normally would from an available fight, but I will at least do this. Sharing my screen there for a second. You see him, he is a 1-1 amateur featherweight fighter fighting out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Give it up for Coby the Sandman Sanders. What's up, Coby? How's it going, man?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good, man. First and foremost, you're in the car right now, and you told me what you're on the way to. As you said, a cage wrestling event, which I
Yep.
have never heard those words put together in that combination before. So, what is it exactly that you're headed to?
So a guy, one of my teammates, Cornell Beecham, he's a good guy, a good friend with a guy named Dylan Bucka, and he came up with the idea of doing like an MMA cage wrestling event. So it's basically folk style wrestling inside of a cage. So no aisle balance, basically no rules. You can still pin and win by points, but it's just cage wrestling, just MMA guys versus MMA guys.
Huh, that's interesting, and definitely a unique idea from Dylan Budka, who everybody listening would probably be familiar with. Isn't it amazing in this era of combat sports the amount of different ideas that people have come up with for different combat sports promotions?
It's pretty cool. A lot of different things going on.
I mean, like, karate combat, obviously, there's other major promotions that focus a lot more on Muay Thai and kickboxing, but there's karate combat, there's bare knuckle, there's game bred bare knuckle MMA, there's the RAF, just straight up wrestling promotion. There is dirty boxing. Then dirty boxing, that's when I've particularly fallen in love with since its inception. So, like, not only are there more opportunities for people to fight, especially like a lot of fighters past kind of a lot of fighters go there and extend their careers past their peak, but people with different specialties and different skill sets are able to find more of what their niche is in this era.
Right.
So that's very interesting. Now, first off, you are 1-1 as an amateur featherweight. Both of your fights to this point have been in Ohio Combat League, just a few months apart, September and December of 2025. Ohio Combat League 40 and Ohio Combat League 42. So, what is your, background in combat sports? How did you end up deciding that you wanted to start, an amateur fighting career at all?
So I wrestled in high school. I wrestled a lot. I started my freshman year. I started in seventh grade wrestling, and then my seventh grade I went 22-0 as a middle schooler. Went to high school, wrestled all through high school. I got into some trouble senior year in school, and I didn't get to wrestle senior year. I went 42-2, and then couldn't wrestle in sectionals or state. And I kind of just I got a Division II offer to wrestle at Urbana College, and I took that. In my first year in college, I got into some more trouble and got kicked out of college. So I kind of got the brainstorming and thinking like I'm so good of a wrestler, but never got to see my peak because of trouble or my parents held me back because of my grades. So I'm like, okay, now I'm 20 years old, out of high school, out of college. Cornell Beecham, which is my friend, he was fighting at the time, and I have no experience boxing. I have no experience with stand up at all. I was just a wrestler, and I went to a practice and met Jeremy Pinder and Joey, and I just clicked with those guys right off the bat. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna see this through. I was trained for about 2 months and took my first. I only been training for about 5 months total. I took my first fight right off the bat in what was that, December or September 20th,
Mhm.
and we knew that the guy I was fighting was not very good. He was a debuter as well, but he comes from no background. So I went in there and choked him out in 30 seconds. And after that fight, I'm like, okay, I want to do this. So that's kind of what came along with it. It was kind of, I jumped into it and kind of fell in love with the process.
Yeah, I mean, like it's got to be a comforting thing for people who have, a lot of amateur wrestling experience that, like, you can go in and, even with limited training in any of the other disciplines, you're immediately going to be at a comfort level that exceeds that of even people that have been training for longer and in more disciplines. You're going to be more comfortable in there, and if things go south or you hit a situation where you don't know necessarily what to do technique wise in a fight, you have the wrestling to default to and the muscle memory's there.
Right.
So your debut fight, September 20th, 2025, that was against Jakua Davis. You ended up winning with a guillotine from half guard in the first round. So did that fight like I don't know what vision you kind of had of like how you thought the fight was going to play out, but it must have felt good to get out of there, in round one in your debut fight. But how do you reflect now on, your win in your amateur debut?
Looking back, Um, I kind of wish I would have stayed on my feet a little bit more. I really got really nervous. When I was getting my hands wrapped in the back and getting prepared for the fight mentally, I was super nervous. And when I came out to fight and I seen the guy across me, I'm like, oh, I am so much bigger than this guy. So I knew I was going to be able to wrestle him right off the bat. I just kind of got into I was super nervous, so I started throwing my hands right off the rip, like crazy wild punches, took him down, and I kind of overwhelmed him on how big I was. So I really don't like the win. I don't like that I fought. Looking at it now, I mean, it was a debut. It got my feet wet, but looking back, I wish I would have just tried to stay on my feet a little bit more and not use my strength. It's over with now. I kind of a little bit upset about it just because now I'm way better than that. It was kind of like a nerve-wracking thing, really.
I mean, for what the amount of training that you say you had leading up to that fight, now the amount of, combat sports, multiple discipline education you've gotten since September of 2025, that makes a significant difference, moving
Right.
forward.
Right.
So, now the second fight. So that was December 20th, 2025. Really, I mean, not almost exactly 3 months ago, or
Yep.
well, two. Yeah, 2 months ago. That was against Tyler Talley at Ohio Combat League 42. And now Ohio Combat League 42, that was in Newark, Ohio. I've been to several of the live events that they do in Newport. And now Tyler Talley, I believe it was 1-1 when you ended up fighting him. He's 2-1 now. He's
Yep.
won, two in a row and all in Ohio Combat League. So, it was absolutely a step up in competition. A guy that, is more comfortable in, the cage in a competitive setting. And I think an important thing to note about Tyler Talley is his first two amateur fights went the distance. So he
Right.
had, more rounds of competitive experience in that setting. And obviously, that fight didn't go the way that you wanted. Ends up being a TKO in round two. But, you ended up making it. You got past the first round, you get more cage time, and you end up fighting a guy who's a much more experienced opponent. Even, it's not like he's super experienced, but definitely more experienced than your first opponent. So,
Right.
how do you now, like a couple months have passed? What are your thoughts about that fight with Tyler Talley, and what have you learned from it moving forward?
Honestly, I kind of, for a while, for the last, now I got another fight coming up, so I'm kind of past it. But for a while, I kept wanting a rematch. I text Brandon Harrock. I told my coach, I said, hey, the guy beat me. I mean, this is part of the game. I respect the guy a lot. Me and Tally text each other after the fight. Great guy. I just felt like I got caught. I felt like he was not a better fighter than me. Going into the fight, me and my coaches sat down and we understood that he was a lot more experienced. His last two fights, he fought a total of 9 minutes, and he had some really good striking. So we was nervous. I was nervous going in, just knowing that I was not good at striking and he was a strike. He's a boxer. He comes from a boxing background. Um, After the first round, Jeremy Pinder and Joey was just telling me like, this guy can't stand with you on your feet. Like you need to just keep throwing punches and keep your distance. I went in there and tried to wrestle and I got caught. And I kind of, looking back at it, it's just part of the game. Guys get caught, guys get put to sleep, guys get choked out. I'm not upset about it. It helped me a lot. It really made me realize like I want to do this. I'm not scared to lose. I'm not scared to get hurt. So, I mean, honestly, I thank Tally for it. Good job. If we see down the line, we see down the line. If not, it is what it is.
Yeah, and like yeah, I think it's understandable after that, like your first amateur loss, wanting the rematch, the way you felt about it. But at the same time, like that is what your amateur fighting career is for. You
Right.
learn from the fight against Tyler Talent. Now you can go learn things from the fight with whoever is coming up next, whether it's a win or a loss. And there's no reason to spend several months of your amateur career dedicated to fighting the same dude when you can absorb a lot more by fighting someone else.
Yeah. Same thing my coaches said. Forget that guy. We move on.
And he comes one, to point out that that Ohio Combat League event, Ohio Combat League 42, that was in Newark, Ohio. Tyler Talley fighting out of Newark, Ohio. That fight was in his backyard, and he comes from VO2 Fitness, which is another camp that has a lot of guys that aren't necessarily major promotion guys, but they have a lot of fighters that have been competing recently and have been successful.
Yeah. Definitely.
So right now, both your first two amateur fights were at featherweight, and I take it that from your amateur wrestling experience and how long back that goes for you, and the ear that I'm seeing close up in the camera right now, I can tell that like cutting weight is something that you're more comfortable with than some people might be, depending on their background. Is featherweight the right weight for you moving forward, you think?
Um, I had a lot of talks with my coaches about it. At first I kind of wanted to move up because that Tyler Tally fight specifically, I killed myself. Right now I'm about to wrestle at 170. I walk around like 170, 175. It's really, I mean, it's not a hard cut for me. My next fight's going to be at 45, but I'm eventually going down to 35 for my pro debut. Um, but I mean, I think well featherweight is better for me just because I'm a lot linkier than everybody I fight. No one's really my height or size. I just have to figure out a balance of what I want to do. Like the weight cut is nothing. Do I want to just take the challenge and go to 35, or do I want to stay at 45? It's kind of my coaches want me to stay at 45 just because my size, and I don't necessarily have to kill myself to get there. My last fight with Tyler Talley, I weighed in at 138. So
Damn.
I weighed in literally with all my clothes on because I was so light. So I don't know. I think featherweight's good for me.
Yeah, hell, you weighed in, more a bantamweight than you were a featherweight on
Yeah.
this scale. And I mean, 5'11" is lanky for featherweight. That's lanky as shit for bantamweight. And so,
Right.
but and that has its pros and cons. We see plenty of bantamweights at the highest level who are super lanky, and it's a giant problem. But
Yeah.
Is that going to be like where you're most comfortable? Is that going to be best for your gas tank? That is also what your amateur career is to figure out. This is why you see people fighting at three different weight classes and a bunch of different catch weights throughout their amateur career, because that's how you figure out what weight, is your true home.
Right. And that's kind of where we're standing at now. We're trying to fight again here soon. I'm gonna try to get it at a catch weight of 140 just to see how it goes and see how I can get down.
Okay. And so, how many of the details of your next fight are, kind of set in stone?
So my coach Joey did not want me to fight. He kind of wants me to stay in the gym and get better and keep getting more conditioning. And I looked at him and told him like, just trust me. Let's fight again. Let's fight. Like I just want this amateur career to be kind of like, if I can't go, I can't go, but I can go. So he looked at me and looked at Jeremy, the head coach, and they agreed to let me fight. So we're trying to get on the March 21st card that was delayed in Newport. Um, I know it's a couple opponents they threw out too, Joey, for me. We're kind of just weighing our pros and cons because one, it's in my hometown, so we want to be smart on what opponent we pick. We don't want to say yes to anybody. So it's either that or I'm going to try to fight March 14th in Louisville, Kentucky. So coming up, I'm going to be fighting. Just don't know who yet.
Okay, are you thinking it's going to be with Ohio Combat League, or are there other promotions that are in the mix?
Yeah. Specifically, I like to fight through Ohio Combat League because I got a good relationship with Brandon Hardrock and them guys, Troy and them. But I can also fight. I know we talked about going to HR MMA. That's also Brandon Hardrock, and then Future of Fighting. I don't fight through too many other promotions, but I kind of leave it all in my coach's hands. Wherever they want me to fight, I go. I don't really pick.
And yeah, like, in this particular area of the country, Cincinnati, you're equidistant from a lot of different locations where, different, promotions have a good handle. West Virginia is not too far away. Lexington and Louisville have different promotions that are good. Indiana is, I'm not as familiar with Indiana, but, the northern part of Ohio and what's available there is a lot different than what's, available in central and southern Ohio. And then there's
Right.
247, that's, in the Pennsylvania area. So there's a lot of options. But as far as Ohio Combat League is concerned, one, attending their live events and, streaming several of their pay-per-views, they put on very high quality events. Yeah, it's a good, fan experience. The fighters, especially like as you get up the main card, is like super high quality. And it seems like from everybody that I have talked to about Ohio Combat League that they do good business and they make it easy to work with them.
Yep. They're really good people.
It's got to make it easier starting in your amateur career when you know you can trust the promotion that you're trying to fight under, because that, in this sport, that was not always the case for it. It's still not the case in, certain places.
Right.
So right now, you're training at a Vision MMA, a well-known entity in this area of Ohio mixed martial arts. And I've had Ilyas Mamadaliev on this podcast several times. Love Ilyas, the Turkish machine. So Vision has a great reputation. I actually asked Ilyas about you. Said like, he hasn't gotten to talk to you like a lot necessarily, but sees you in the gym a lot. You're a hard worker. And so, like, what is the value to you of having a team like Vision MMA that you can foster your amateur career with?
Yeah, those guys, Ilya specifically kind of got hurt when I started getting into it,
Right.
when I started getting real serious. But just our culture that we carry at Vision, I tried other gyms. I've been to other gyms, kind of seen the way they run it. Just how Jeremy Pender runs our gym is a family base. We're all super close. We're like brothers, and Jeremy's like a father to me. Like these guys are, like they're just great people. And I mean, I'm one of three amateurs at my gym, so I'm training with the best of the best. Like I get beat up every Thursday at sparring. Like these guys, they all push us too. They don't just beat up on you. They explain to you what you're doing wrong. I just love the culture as far as how everyone treats everyone. It's a real family base, and they're just really good at what they do. Jeremy Pinder, he's an active fighter. He's our head coach. He fights. So he is kind of like he's not just telling us stuff to tell us. He actually been in them situations. He's seen the bad side, the good side, the people love you, the people hate you. So we got a real good team as far as everybody been where I'm trying to get. Everybody been in bad scenarios. I have Perry Stargell. He's a 10-7 pro. Zachariah Frenchie. He's a 6-2 145er pro. So like everybody at our gym is great guys. They all compete. So I don't know. It's different. I would never go to another gym or talk bad about another gym, but I feel we have the best gym in Ohio.
Yeah, for sure. And for folks that don't know, Jeremy Ponyboy Pinder is, an absolute staple of the regional MMA scene in this area of the country. I believe 34 professional fights in total. He started his amateur career all the way back in 2006, when the
Mhm.
sport was, at that point, the sport was like 13 years old, really. Like it was a 13-year-old professional sport. And Jeremy Pender is the former HRMMA, Coliseum Combat, and B2 Fighting Series Bantamweight champion. And forgot to mention B2 before when mentioning other promotions. So, that is certainly is, someone who can speak from 1,000 different situations that they've seen fighting for 20 years at a competitive level.
Uh-huh.
So, right now, what is, first of all, I don't even know. Let me see if your age is on Tapology, because that is important. But, and
I don't think it is.
yeah, so how old are you?
I just turned 25 in January.
Oh, okay. So you got plenty of time, like
Yeah.
you got several years to, learn as much as you can, develop and hit that peak to, win the biggest fights that you can get. That's plenty of time.
Right.
So, but right now in the short term, where you're looking to get your next fight, you're looking to bounce back from the fight in December. What are your goals for the next 365 days? What are you looking to accomplish?
I really want to. I talked to Joey like 2 days ago on the phone about it. Like, I'm just really trying to. I want to be active this year, super active. If I'm not hurt in March, I want to go again on the next card. Um, my goal is just to bounce back from this loss and take every fight one by one. I don't want to jump the gun, but I want to. I want to take the belts. I want everybody wants belts. It's my goal as well. Um, I just want to stamp my name into this MMA world as far as Kobe the Sandman is just he's coming like for everything, and I'm just trying to really put my name out there and just I really just want to be a great person overall. Like I have just had a son, so I'm trying to just balance out having a son and training. So my whole goal this year is just to stay consistent. I don't care about like I don't want to go pro in the next month. I'm 25 years old, so I'm just gonna let this ride and just trust my coaches and just keep going and see where it takes me.
Yeah, for sure. And the way this sport works is in your amateur career, it doesn't matter if 2 years from now, if your record's 6-6, seven and whatever the hell, it doesn't matter if you win your next like 7 fights in a row. That's great. It doesn't matter if you end up 500 as an amateur. The goal is to be as ready for your professional career if that's what people want to do. When it's actually time to do that. So,
Right,
this is the time to get as, as much experience, but as much, growth as you possibly can.
right.
So, like right now, to kind of close this up, what are your favorite parts about like the MMA and the combat sports world, like as it exists right now? Like, what are your, what are some promotions or some fighters that you've liked to watch recently? And then what do you think are some things about combat sports and mixed martial arts that you would like to see different, by the time you end up being a professional?
So I would say my teammate Cornell. That's kind of I hang out with him every day. That's one of the guys I kind of look up to in the game. He's a 2-1 pro. I just seen how fast he developed. Like we were both wrestlers, and I seen how fast he jumped into the MMA world and just like start demolishing people. I'm like Jesus. So I see it with my own two eyes, and I see the work that the guy puts in, the time, the days in, the days out. So he's just kind of someone I look up to on a regional scene. And I just think that what I like most about the MMA world is the difference from wrestling. Like a lot of guys wrestling is blood, sweat, and tears as well. But for me, so far, it's no better feeling than that cage lock, and then just knowing that you can't get out unless you win or lose. So I just feel like it's just a different feeling for me that kind of has a soft spot for me as far as loving the game. I mean, it's weird. It's like a different type of competing. It's not football. It's not wrestling. This is two men putting their hands on each other, and I think that's what I love most about it. What I would like to see change, probably more of like it hasn't happened to me, but I see a lot of these guys like get matched up with guys that's 5-0 and they're oh man, oh never mind. I thought my phone turned off. Sorry. What I would like to see is just I see a lot of guys get matched up with guys that just ain't that should not be a fight. If you get what I'm saying, I don't know if you've seen any of them, but I see a lot of fights where guys are 3-3 fighting a 5-0, and I know it's fighting, and we put on our draws the same way, but it's definitely levels to this game, and I would like to see improvement of that all over, just not one promotion, just MMA in general.
Oh yeah, especially like you look to the U.S. Northeast, you look at the New England promotions like CES, Combat FC, in that area of the country. I think it's egregious some of the matchups that they come up with, and
Right.
it's not doing a lot of people any favors. They have their prospects that they're trying to work up through the rankings, but they're fighting a dude who's like 13 and 34, and it's like that's
Right.
a great level of experience, but I don't know if that is doing, your prospects any favors when they actually reach a higher level. And, they have, and by the same token, you just don't know on the amateur scene. Like, this guy's 5-0, but like the gym I'm talking to swears that this like dude that's 1-1, like can handle this fight. And yeah, I don't think any gym would
Right.
intentionally I don't think most gyms would set up a fighter to be a sacrificial lamb, but you just never know. Like you're working, matchmakers are probably working on limited information when coming up with these. But I do think that some promotions intentionally come up with those matchups because they're trying to put certain people in the spotlight.
Right.
And no, so I looked it up too. Cage WrestleMania is what Dylan Boca and Gary Young came up with. Looks super interesting. Um, so, Kovic, thank you so much for being here with us today. And this was a fun conversation. Always great to talk to somebody who comes out of the Ohio regional MMA scene. Before we go, if there's anything else that you want to say or anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
I appreciate you for letting me come on. I would just shout out Vision MMA. We're gonna continue what we do, and shout out to all the fans and people who support my journey.
Folks, this has been another interlude episode of the Tap That MMA podcast with Coby the Sandman Sanders. Look out for what he's going to do in the next year. Follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow the podcast at Tap That MMA podcast on YouTube and Spotify, now available on Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. Follow me on Instagram at RotoBrady MMA. Thank you for listening on, when the day that this comes out. Look out for other interlude episodes that are coming out and the ones that are in the works. Thank you so much for listening, folks. Have yourselves a great weekend and peace.